Welcome everyone to season 4, episode 136 of the Premier Pod. I'm your host, Yash, joined by my co-host, Tyler Chan. And if you've been following this podcast for any length of time, you're probably wondering what's been going on. You haven't heard from us in about 2 weeks now. And that is because currently, at least for Tyler's situation, Tyler, like we've mentioned it before in a couple episodes briefly at certain points, but Tyler's actually on his process of moving across country in the US. So a very long trek, a very long journey of kind of packing up almost his entire life and moving out to the West Coast. So because of that, his setup and his situation's kind of been in flux because he's had to focus on packing up a lot of stuff, handling a lot of logistical things. And because of that, we just haven't had the right time, or we just didn't feel like it was appropriate to record a quick pod. And we've also mentioned in the past that there's just been the rise of COVID cases. So a lot of games have been getting canceled, postponements. A lot of games that are playing with, reserve youth team players. So it's kind of just been a wacky situation in general in the Premier League, but also for Tyler, like moving out. And like for me, I'm potentially going to be moving out as well. So a lot of our setup and a lot of our normal, like everyday, weekly kind of podcasting setups and everything are kind of been thrown up in the air as we get adjusted to moving and kind of getting set up with the new locations. So that's primarily why you have not heard from us for the past 2 weeks.
Mhm. This is going to be kind of like a very just open update pod where we're just kind of giving everyone like the heads up where it's like, hey, I'll actually be moving from basically Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
So Yosh and I will be on a different coast. So that'll be interesting to kind of figure out how this is going
Yeah,
to
I
play
got to get
out. It's gonna
adjusted to
be
the different time zones. This will be
those
fun.
4:30 a.m. call or games in the
Now the
morning. That's gonna
7
be kind of
a.m.
rough.
the 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time games that we complain about will now be 4:30 for Tyler. So
Hmm.
pray for him out there.
Or just record them and just not look at my phone.
Yeah,
Just
stay off
wake up. It's
Twitter.
like, all right, close my eyes and just open them just for the game when I wake up. But yeah, basically the next month it's gonna be very on and off for us. It's gonna be basically me taking the setup right here in Atlanta and just packing it up right after I hop off this pod episode, have
Mhm.
it edited, and then just pack up everything and just ship it all with me to Portland. And then for Yash, basically in a few weeks, hopefully, he will basically be doing the same thing, moving to a whole other state, and then basically it's gonna be his turn.
Yeah.
So we're kind of just on the same train of kind of moving away from Atlanta, but moving to different sides of the coast. But it's gonna be a little wonky for like the next month of January,
Mhm.
but I think after we're both kind of settled in, it'll be a little bit back to normal. But
Yeah.
we felt like for all of our listeners out there, kind of give a little update to see why it's like, oh, what's going on over there? It's like,
Yeah, we haven't gone away. We haven't gone away. We've just been a bit busy. Like we've talked about like these moves for like the longest time, but obviously when they're happening, it just takes a lot. It pretty much takes up your whole life to like, move everything, get everything packed up, all of that logistical stuff as I said before. So it just takes up a lot of time, and we want to make sure that when we do record we're in like the right headspace, mentally, where we can just focus on the pod and not worrying about, hey, X, Y, and Z is happening. I got to make sure that's all good after the pod, but being in the right headspace so we can deliver the best podcast. So that's why we feel like it's appropriate to take some time off so we can make sure we get everything in order. All the setup and all the other things that will come with moving.
mhm. We've come a long way since
Yeah,
episode 1 in terms of us kind of preparing for it and also just the quality of
yeah,
the pod, the sounds of our voices, all that. And I'm hoping to bring all the equipment that have here over there. So
hmm
hopefully nothing breaks. And then
yeah,
hopefully I can set up everything to at least sound, if not the same, a little bit better over there as well.
yeah. Same,
So
same for me as well. Because as you can go back episode 1, we basically started recording on a laptop with the fans blasting at full blast, where you could just hear the fan in the background, to a makeshift studio at UGA, to going back remote before COVID. So we were the OG remote workers. And all the other setups and stuff that you've seen in between. So that's one thing, like Tyler mentioned, we want to maintain is the quality of the podcast as well, in terms of our voices, and making sure the production quality is high as well. So that's also one of the other reasons we want to take our time and make sure we got everything right before we start putting out other podcasts out there.
mhm. And hopefully we'll have some new ideas once we're over, kind of all settled in. We'll have some cool things to talk about, kind of recap. And it's kind of like we've been so used to kind of keeping up with the Premier League every single week. and then taking a few weeks breaks here and there for like the next month or two. It's going to be a lot of jumps. Even these past 2 weeks, we've seen, Ralph Radnick. Is he actually Klopp and Tuchel's actual dad? Is he actually exposed? And like COVID's unfortunately rising and hitting a lot of teams here and there. So we've
Hmm.
seen a lot of games get canceled or postponed, not canceled, but like postponed,
Yeah,
especially like even like one I can noticeably remember was like Liverpool versus Leeds on Boxing Day. That was just devastating. Just waking up Boxing Day and just,
it's
man,
not there.
Christmas is over. So, hopefully, things will get a little better in the next couple weeks and so here as there, but it'll be a little interesting to see how things play out. But at least for us, we'll be still trying to keep our heads in it and our eyes and ears open. But we'll be here. If we have any updates also, just to let y'all know, we'll be on Twitter. So look out for our Twitter at the Premier Pod.
Yeah.
We'll make some updates here and there. But if anything, we'll try to shell out these episodes when we can, when we're both available.
Hmm.
But, you know, please hold with us as
Yeah.
you're kind of moving, making these big moves.
Yeah, well, for sure. I think this might be like our long, not hiatus, but longest break since probably like the summer break, or that one weird time when we didn't have, when we were still in college and we didn't have a actual recording place to record, so we essentially had to take a 4 week break because of circumstances. So similar to that, but not so similar. But I was gonna say, if Tyler, if you had any like lasting words before, I guess we close out this update pod right here.
I guess if there is anything, it's just although Yash and I we're both moving and kind of making some big moves in our own lives with our own careers and kind of things like that, we're gonna make sure that the podcast has always been like our thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's been our thing for like 3.5 years now. We're gonna keep it going, and although we'll be at different coasts and kind of playing it and learning different things over there and kind of going through seeing different things and kind of making it all work. Hopefully, it will be a good thing where we can bring some new ideas to the table, bring some new pods for y'all, and keep it going because we still have friends. We all know at least they always keep listening to us and always telling us new ideas and what they want us to talk about, and we'll keep it going. It's
Hmm.
it's fun for me still. And I'm pretty sure I don't want to speak for Yash, but I'm pretty sure if it wasn't fun for Yash anymore,
Yeah.
this podcast wouldn't be going. So we're gonna keep it going as long as we can.
Hmm.
So that's it for me. But that's what I gotta say.
Yeah,
How about you?
yeah, for sure. That's the same way. I'm still, probably as excited as I am making it as the first day, like when I decided to open up the laptop and just give it a go and see what would happen. And 3.5 years later, we're at this point where we have all this production quality into it, and now, we can actually take like a big break to like kind of plan out stuff and also make sure we got all our everything in order. But I'm also excited for what Tyler said too. The fact that we'll be in two different cities, two different locations, probably like two different locations that are also really big soccer hubs in the U.S. Obviously, the West Coast is a huge soccer culture there, and then in New York, soccer culture is huge in those two parts of the U.S. So that will also be like a cool thing, is that we can kind of bring two different perspectives now compared to just us being at Georgia, which is also growing in terms of being like a soccer hub, but definitely the OG locations are New York and the West Coast. So I'm excited to bring those two different perspectives when it comes to the podcast, because I feel like that will just make it even more exciting to what we can put out.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy that our lives are gonna be a little different now.
yeah.
It's gonna be a little different, but the one consistency is this podcast. So at
Yeah.
least we have that. If everything, at least for us two to hang on to, it is the
Hmm.
pod. So at least for my case, it gives me a little bit of comfort.
Yeah,
Just talking to
exactly.
y'all and talking to Yosh. So
Yeah, exactly. It was one constant that stayed for these 3.5 years through everything has been the pod. So we want to
mhm.
continue that to be the kind of the constant in both of our lives. So yeah, we wanted to make this episode out to give you guys an update on what's been going on. As we always say with every episode that we close out the podcast with, we do appreciate and thank you guys for all the support you have given us and shown us during this time. As always, you can give us a follow at the Premier Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Especially look out for Twitter so we can give you guys any updates on certain situations, or when we're planning on getting back on track with terms of making regular episodes. and everything in between. You can also find the video versions of this podcast at the Premiere Pod on YouTube. And, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please be sure to give us a rating or leave us a rating. But if you have any friends that are interested in Premier League or anything Premier League related, feel free to share it with them. We appreciate the support any way we get it. And yeah, that kind of does it for us for episode 130. Let me actually see this real quickly. 136. We didn't even have a rundown. So this is all, we're speaking from the heart with this one. But yeah, thank you guys. That kind of does it for us for episode 136 of the podcast of the Premier Pod. So thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.